You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, a place to learn about how to grow your business and stay ahead of technological advances before they become mainstream. This episode is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Xvantage, the next level way to transform your business's potential and reshape how customers see you through advanced transactional data. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Shelby Skrhak, and our guest today is Kinney Yee, Solutions Architect with Cisco. Kinney, welcome.
Thanks, Shelby. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and I appreciate the time today.
I do appreciate it too. So, today Cisco is giving us a little bit of a primer on Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE or SASE, and secure remote work. So first off, Kinney, the term itself, it comes from an August 2019 Gartner report. But what specifically do we mean when we say Secure Access Service Edge?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shelby. So even though the term SASE has, been coined by Gartner, as you mentioned, in 2019, it's not really a new concept. So we've kind of been doing this without even realizing it. And it's all about the 3 C's. If we look at what SASE really is comprised of, it's about connectivity, control, and convergence. And if you think about how people are wanting to work today, this changes the entire paradigm of traditional networking and connectivity. It really expands the need for security and security frameworks like zero trust networking and SASE. So that's really, the drivers behind SASE today.
Yeah. Of course, our work has changed. Where we work has changed. How we work has changed. So let's talk about some of the precursors to SASE. How is it different from LAN local area networks and wide area networks? And I guess, what did security and maybe more recently remote security look like before we got to this SASE platform, SASE concept?
Sure. The whole thing of networking, really, if we looked at how networking was done from a LAN perspective and a WAN perspective, the evolution of network is constantly changing and has drastically changed in the last few years, right? On the LAN side of things, prior to the pandemic, a lot of us were going into the office, and it was very easy to secure that office or that enterprise network. And we might have had branch offices that were connecting to the headquarters or those main locations. And those were typically using WAN connections and technology called MPLS. Well, with how LAN and WAN has changed, since post-pandemic, everyone is working from home. And I remember very vividly in March 2020 when everyone scrambled to get a remote work from home solution.
Right.
And, if you look at Cisco in the past, we have been driving the anywhere, anytime, any device type of connectivity for some time now. So it wasn't a major shift for us, but the world finally caught up to what we were doing at Cisco, right?
Right.
So, traditionally, those networks, they had data, application, and processes that were easy to control, easy to monitor, and easy to secure because 80% of that networking traffic was in that enterprise environment. But post-pandemic, that has shifted now. 80% of that traffic is now external to those enterprises, and it's made it really difficult for them to provide that secure connectivity, that remote working solution. And those ways of doing things are no longer acceptable.
You mentioned a term that I wasn't familiar with, MPLS. What does that mean?
So that MPLS is multi-protocol label switching is what it stands for. And it's a technical term for essentially how traditional or legacy networks built private connectivity, built private WAN links between branch offices and their enterprise headquarters. And MPLS is a technology that, although some people seen it as secure because it was a private network, it was semi-secure. So there's inherent security built into it. But the downside of MPLS is that you're working with a service provider to actually create that provisioning, to create that link, and establish that connection. And those are very costly connections because they are private networks working through a service provider. But, if we look at today's environment, what is the backbone that's connecting remote workers and remote branch offices now? It's really the internet. The internet has become such a key piece, an integral piece of people's networking environments, that it is essentially the backbone now that's connecting everything together, as well as private, using it for these private connections.
And so, of course, the difference between cloud internet and the private network, it's everybody else. It's all of the other factors that you can't really control like you used to be able to when it was, you're literally just, controlling the land. You're right there. Basically your physical perimeter was your security.
Exactly.
Place that you had to take care of. How has that complicated things just exponentially for the way we work today?
Right. So security should be forefront of everybody's mind today. We see all of these attacks. We see all of these organizations that are professional organizations now that are for profit, that are attacking companies through malware, through advanced persistent threats, etc. So there's so many things out there that are attacking our networks now. And I guess my point is that it's changed as far as our security perimeter goes, and it's expanded out to those end users. Those end users can be very easy targets because they're connecting into our enterprise. And as you mentioned, cloud applications have proliferated, right? So if you think about all the different cloud applications you use today, you might be using WebEx for conferencing. You might be using Office 365. You might be using Salesforce. All of these have different workflows, but they're not in our environment anymore. They're all over the place. How do we secure all of these disparate connections for these end users? And that's where that SASE framework comes into play again. So it's about the connectivity, control, and convergence of that SASE framework, which helps us secure our users and our environment.
So let's go through those three components. Let's start with connectivity. How does SASE work to make connectivity effective, productive, and without any type of performance delays?
Yeah, great question. As far as connectivity goes, we want to look at what's called software-defined wide area networking, or SD-WAN. And SD-WAN is really about creating that connectivity using, again, the internet as the backbone. Now, if you think about the different elements that we're connecting, we have branch locations that are still connecting into that enterprise headquarters, but all of your users that are working remote, you can think of them as a branch of one, because I'm working in my home office, you're working in your home office, and I'm sure many others that are listening as well are working directly in that home office. How do we still maintain secure connectivity to not only the applications that are at the headquarters, but maintaining secure connections to all of the disparate cloud applications that we have, that we use on a daily basis, that we take for granted, right? We don't want that traffic coming directly into the headquarters and then going back out. We have to provide them direct internet access to ensure that they're getting the best performance out of their connections that they have at home. So the SD-WAN piece of it is really important. And if we look at it from an administration side of it, while we're still providing that direct internet access for their cloud applications, how do I, as an administrator, make it easy on myself to deploy all these SD-WAN connections? Well, we do it through the cloud as well. So we have a product through our Meraki security appliance or MX appliance, which can help create these links, these secure links to the applications as well as the enterprise.
And that's the software-defined part of it.
That is the software-defined part of it.
So let's talk about the control. So obviously, security is paramount, and as you mentioned, the threat actors or the bad actors are not hackers in their basement. They are sophisticated organizations that their mission statement is to attack and to infiltrate. So how does SASE aid with creating a secure perimeter for such a wide area?
Yeah, these are for-profit groups now that we're protecting against. They are very coin-operated, and the SASE components that we're using, we try and make it easy for our users, right? So we want cloud-managed, cloud-deployed security solutions that they can easily deploy, manage, and essentially get analytics about what's going on within their users and their user base. So the very first piece of it that I want to talk about is DNS layered security. Before we make any connections to any applications out there, the first thing that we do is called DNS. It's domain name system. And what that does is it resolves the common name to an IP address. And I'll give you an example. So if I go out to google.com, before I even make that connection, I have to create what's called a DNS resolve. I have to resolve that common name that we know into an IP address so that my system can get to that website. And when I implement DNS layered security, that means that I'm ensuring that request, is not a malicious request. So I'm blocking any unwanted destinations prior to any connection being made. That's really important because malware nowadays, which can come in via a number of methods, well, it tries to make a call back into what's called a command and control server. And if I have a DNS layer security component in place, it stops that immediately before any connection is made and my endpoint is secure.
And the other piece of it, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about other parts of that SASE solution. And other parts of that SASE solution is the secure web gateway component of it. So we talked about malware and how malware can get into an endpoint or a user. There's so many threats out there. Mm-hmm. With secure web gateway, what we're doing is we're doing real-time inspection of these inbound files for the threats before they start to propagate on that user's device or throughout my network. Now, with Secure Web Gateway also, there's a lot of malware that's coming in via encrypted methods. I can decrypt that using my Secure Web Gateway to find hidden attacks and block specific users or activities before, again, they start to propagate across my network. And then I can also do content filtering and I'll only allow access to specific URLs during specific times. And again, it's back to that control portion of that 3 C's. So using the secure web gateway to ensure that my users are accessing the right data, the right applications at the right time on the right devices is really important to making sure that security is implemented.
Right. So what do we mean by convergence, that third C?
So the third C is all about making it easy for my security ops folks. We know resources are really limited out there, and expertise, IT security expertise is really limited. How do we, as Cisco, as a vendor, take all of these different feeds from my security applications and make it easy for not only my user, has to be transparent for the user, otherwise the experience is going to suffer for the user. But the convergence side of it, not only for the user, for that transparency, but for the administrator. How do I gather all that information, correlate it, and defend against all of these attacks that are constantly ongoing? That's the convergence part of the connectivity and the control portion of it. That's the convergence, bringing those two together, making sure that very easy to create that connectivity, very easy to control, very easy to administrate and manage that environment.
So keeping the security ops folks happy, keeping the end users happy. It's balancing those two, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's not an easy task. I mean, you mentioned earlier about, we can't route everything, for lack of terms, to one central place and then back out to all of these quote unquote branch locations, which we're calling branches people. I mean, our remote workers that, are making up a good portion. You said, was it 80% of the connections 80? That are coming in? Yeah, that's a big challenge to be able to handle that with the number of people that are working from home, the outside forces that are trying to infiltrate, and do that all with a balance of performance. So when we look at all those things together, then why were we talking about this conversation with Cisco? I mean, why is Cisco talking about SASE and remote work, and where does Cisco come into this framework?
Yeah, so the reason why people look to Cisco for SASE solutions is because we are the leader in that connectivity. We're the leader in the control portion, and also leaders in the convergence part of it as well. So Cisco has been doing networking for over 30 years now. Our R&D is huge. We put more money within our R&D than many of our competitors combined. And we have, as far as the reasons why Cisco, it's really about how we go to market with our not only our SASE solutions, but all of our solutions. It's about the opportunities for the partners that we create to help them grow their business. And then we offer the best solutions. So again, we're the market leaders in not only networking and security, among other areas, but we have the most feature-rich and products and services out there for our partners to help them deploy, manage, and essentially assist our end users with their challenges with IT and security.
Right. I mean, basically trusting the name of Cisco. That's something that end users are certainly going to be familiar with. I mean, they understand Cisco and networking, inherently together. But from the partner standpoint, and you touched on this already, but I wonder if you can just kind of drive that point home a little bit. So why should partners or resellers really be looking to Cisco specifically? I mean, yes, they are the trusted name, but I guess how beneficial or lucrative can it be for a partner to partner with Cisco through Ingram Micro?
Yeah, so our partner community is so important to Cisco's business. And over 90% of our go-to-market goes through our partners. So our 2T partners drive 90% of our overall sales. So that's a huge portion of our Cisco business. So we rely heavily on our partners. we create our programs around that partner mindset. And it's all about, for our end customers, it's all about immediate ROI. So they immediately see ROI within our solutions. From our partners' perspective, it's all about profitability and building programs to help our partners be profitable. So again, our go-to-market is very channel focused and partner focused. Everything we do at Cisco is developed, again, with that partner set in mind and trying to make it easy for our partners to be profitable and also implement the best technology solutions out there.
Yeah. Well, as we do start to wrap up our episode, we always ask our guests the same final question, and that's, where do you see technology going in the next year? So I know that is broad, and as we are, dawning on 2023, where are we going to be by the end of 2023 into early 2024?
Yeah, so within 2023 and 2024, what we see on the horizon is a lot more need for security. That's not That's not shifting.
It's not going away.
It's not going away. It's actually increasing because there's just so many more people out there and nation states that are attacking people, for profit again. Security is going to expand even more. But what you'll also see is more automation. So we're building a lot of automation into our products as well as AI to help automatically defend against these zero-day attacks, to make sure that, people can just set it and forget it, which is another key in providing successful security frameworks for folks and security products for folks, is the automation and AI integration. So that's what I really see on the forefront for security within the next year and next year and a half.
Yeah. For listeners who have any questions about something that we talked about today or want to find out more, how can they reach out?
Yeah, so we partner very closely with Ingram Micro. They have an excellent team there. The sales folks are so knowledgeable. They're pre-sales folks. They go deep within the technology. They have great resources like their demo center, their Cisco Experience Center. So as a partner coming in and wanting to see the technology in action, they can use the Business Technology Center at Ingram Micro and see exactly how the technology is implemented, see a demo of the technology. They can even help partners and customers with trials of all of the Cisco products. So that's a huge partnership that we have with Ingram Micro. And I know the partners rely on them so much as well because they just are a fantastic resource.
Well, excellent, Kinney. I appreciate the insight and the time today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Shelby. I appreciate it.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. If you like this episode or have a question, please join the discussion on Twitter with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Until next time, I'm Shelby Skrhak.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk by Ingram Micro. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro Xvantage. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production between Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. To listen to this episode and many others, visit ingrammicro.com.